Have y'all ever played or heard of teamfight tactics and wonder what it's like to compete at the top? There's a number of professional TFT players, streamers, newcomers to the scene, and a diverse collection of participants that make up the competitive pool. When I was trying to enter the scene, I couldn't really find content that covered the player's perspective and thoughts. And I hope this video shows what it's like to compete in TFT. I had the chance to play at the mid-set finale, which is a culmination of tournament results throughout set 8, and gave players a chance to compete for a spot at regional finals, and even a spot to represent North America on the world stage. I know this is one of my first videos, so I'll give a short introduction about me. My name is Matt, aka Lil Top, and I fell in love with TFT during one League of Legends offseason in set 4, during a winter break from my studies. I hit masters in a lot of games, but more importantly, I love this new genre that tested my ways of thinking, rather than raw mechanics. I took a break to focus on League, but stopped grinding League entirely and focused on TFT at the start of set 6.5, just to see how far I could go while putting time into the game. I ended up playing my most amount of games in a season, nearly 1.2k games, 1200 games, which is insane to me, and had my first taste of playing high up on the ladder. After grinding on the ladder, I realized that there are open circuits officially sponsored by Riot Games. These tournaments are hosted by Giant Slayer, an amazing group of individuals who run the actual scene. After I realized that there were tournaments, I played in my first one, Astral Cup, which took place in set 7. Ever since then, I've been hooked on competing within TFT. I'll make sure to make a different video that goes more into detail about my history. But let's get back to the present day in our most recent performance at set 8's mid-set finale. The mid-set finale is comprised of the top 4 players that placed out of 160 players at the Defender Cup, and then the top 4 players from the Corrupted Cup. These spots take up 8 out of the 32 slots available for mid-set finale. The next 24 spots come from qualifier points that are gained from how well players place at those 2 tournaments. So even if you didn't get top 4, you still have a chance to qualify for the mid-set through your overall performance. Why did players in set 8 want to qualify for a mid-set finale? Well, this is to give themselves the best shot at the global representation at Worlds, where the first place player at mid-set finale gets automatically qualified for Worlds in set 8.5. The other top 4 players at mid-set finale get an automatic qualification for regional finals, where there are 3 slots instead of the 1 to qualify for Worlds. Honestly, it's a lot of information and it's kind of hard to keep track of why everything is, so here's a picture that helps explain what I'm talking about. Honestly, pictures help a lot. I kind of get confused when I'm reading a bunch of words or listening to a bunch of words, so hopefully this helps. So, mid-set finale is split into 3 days. This video is about my day 1 performance, where the 32 qualified players compete in 6 games, where only the top 16 qualify to the next day. The lobbies are changed every 2 games, so you end up playing 2 games in a row with the same group before things could change. Here's an example of who were the players in my first lobby. Since there are 8 players in the lobby, the points you acquire is based off of your placement, where first gets 8 points and 8th unfortunately only gets 1 point. Usually, it's a good idea to aim for 27 to 29 points overall to qualify for the next day, as that would mean that your average performance is within a 4.5 placement range, which is a bit above the average curve. This is a general point estimate and may change based on the number of games and how well other players are performing. Your performance for the current day could affect your next day, as there are also bonus points awarded from players who placed from 1st through 6th place for that day, with a low of 1 extra point to 3 extra points. The stakes are high, and honestly, you would want to scrape by with every point you can get. If you pop off the first day, these bonus points could give you some extra cushioning for the next day. My general strategy for the weekend was to play AP heavy lines, as I had a couple of games on ladder and realized how strong AP flex was. The patch right before this was an AD heavy patch, where AD flex was strongly rewarded, so champions like Samira, Aphelios, and Belveth were heavily contested. Items like bow and flexible defensive items were popular. The patch that mid-set finale was on nerfed sure shots and Belveth hard, and had some significant buffs to lines that were less common. These lines included Gadgein as the trait being overall buffed and reworked, admin units and the trait being buffed, as well as Talia getting a small buff as well. Before the huge Samira patch, I was a huge Viego one trick, as I loved the line and the units. And I went into this tournament trying to play AP Flex with default for Viego line. When I'm playing TFT, I try my best to have a default line to play for. Depending on augments and items, I try and flex that playstyle. I feel like the earlier that you can commit, it will allow you to save HP, econ, and save yourself from ultimately getting dizzy when you're trying to pivot your boards. This especially holds true in tournament play. You can spend less time worrying about what frontline units you need, what backline units you need, how do you sync up all the traits, and what augments are takeable for the comp that you have. This allows you to focus on more important things such as positioning and scouting other boards. Being comfortable allows you to play comfortable, which allows you to play at the best of your ability. But let's get back to the present day in our most recent performance at Set 8's mid-set finale. Right away, my game plan is to play AP Flex. It's on Carousel that there's a Lulu with Rod available, which is a strong early game AP carry. If there was a Lux on Carousel with a Rod or a Tier, we could take that as well since she's a strong early game AP unit. A thing to notice is that there's a lot of AP items and only one bow this game. So you could tell right off the bat that maybe AP will be a bit more contested than usual. Who knows? Since you never really know what you're going to play until after your first item drops and your first augment. We get to take a look into our first shop of the day. Wukong, Poppy, those are your premier units during stage 1 since they synergize so well with each other. Most of the damage early on is attack damage. I ended up picking up just the Poppy here. I still want to keep a Lulu and I want to pick up the Talon since I am leaning towards this AP heavy line. Hoping to fish for a 2-cost orb that drops an Annie or a 3-cost orb that drops a Zoe. Any of the 2 Gadge teams that will be available since I am 2 out of 3. Our items are pretty open. It could be Hex Tech if you want to slam early. Hex Tech is the most flexible item of this set. Works well for AD and AP. My next shop, I get a Yasuo pair, which is something I'm not looking to play for. I end up picking the Blitzcrank and the Kale. If I get dropped in admin, I can check out my admin early. If I get dropped underground, I could maybe pick up underground. We end up getting a LeBlanc and Vayne, which is really strong champions, at least for the early game. Vayne works well with Duelist. LeBlanc works well with any Spellslinger, which is Lux, Annie, or Admin to figure out your admin early on. Playing around admins is important, at least for this patch. Admin was basically just like an extra augment. Our first game of the day, we end up rolling 1-cost hero augments, something that we're not really familiar with. The chances of getting a 1-cost hero augment is already low, and getting offered all 1-cost hero augments seems even lower. I ended up taking Rocket Grab here. The stats say it's pretty suboptimal. Looking back, I know it's suboptimal. I didn't really know what other 1-cost hero augments to roll for. I have a LeBlanc already, so at least I can check my admin right away. The admin choices I get aren't ones that I was comfortable with. 2 out of the 3 are proccing at 66% HP. It's pretty hard for that admin to activate when you're playing a backline carry like Soraka or LeBlanc. I should have taken AP on the ability cast instead. It works well throughout the whole game. I get mind controlled here, running out of time, and take admin gain AP at 66% HP. I don't really prefer to play this. This makes my hero augment pick a little weird since I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to fit this Blitzcrank in later. At 2-1, I pick up a Lulu 2 and level to put in a Lux. My board doesn't seem that strong. I have no front line. My hero augment isn't the best for winning out. Looking back, I should have just lost streak, stayed level 3, and hoped to bleed less by killing a unit from my Blitzcrank's Rocket Grab. There's definitely better hero augments that can pave the way to your mid to late game. The time that you have each turn starts to sink in. I'm picking my hero augment and admin. I'm not sure if it's the right choice. I haven't even had time to properly address my shop, decide if I want to level, decide if I'm strong enough, and have those different decisions. The pressure of the tournament is definitely getting to me. I lose my first round despite leveling. I'm regretting my choice, and I should have just went for lost streak and not leveled. I'm also regretting my admin choice since looking back, I definitely could have prepared more by trying to find recordings or VODs of players that have played a successful 1-cost hero augment game. This is something you should do to get a feel for the comp if you've never had the chance to experience it yourself. Get bailed out and unnecessarily high roll our next shop. We get Blitzcrank 2 despite leveling up, and a LeBlanc, which makes our level up a bit more worthwhile. If we could get this LeBlanc 2 going, we could have a stronger early game, and that could be our bailout for stage 2. We lost our first round, but maybe we could find a way to win out stage 2. We end up winning our second fight by a close margin. The question that we have before Carousel is if we should pre-level or not. We're holding 2 LeBlancs, which makes getting 10 gold for interest hard, but if we hit a LeBlanc 2, we could probably win out stage 2. Since we won this fight, we opt to pre-level, hoping we could continue our streak to the end of stage 2, while increasing our shop odds to hit LeBlanc 2. For the first Carousel, I'm 90 HP and last pick. We have an open sword and we're hoping to find an item to slam so we can continue our win streak to the end of this stage. My options end up being Whack as last pick. I could have taken Negatron Cloak and Slam BT to increase my chances of winning out. I end up taking the Annie here since it can replace my Lux and it's a unit that I want for the mid to late game. I'm in a decently strong position where I could greed for Spat. Maybe I can high roll and hit a Fawn or open myself to a different trait later on. The pre-level ends up paying off as our next shop is pretty godly. We're able to hit a LeBlanc 2 and Alistar, which synergizes well with the Annie we grabbed off Carousel. After hitting these upgrades, we generally have a strong stage 2 board. Despite our admin choice not being that great, we can probably win out this stage. The only problem is that I'm flat out broke, so I'm really relying on that win streak moolah. Our next fight is really close, but our admin LeBlanc clutches it up, and we're able to continue the win streak dream. If I lost here, I could probably never financially recover. My next shop, I'm able to hit a Talon 2, and decide to sell my Lulu to bounce off the JG and put it on my LeBlanc. After hitting a Talon 2 and the Silas in my shop, it opens up the option of maybe going for Oxford Spat or Renegade Spat and playing for that out since our admin isn't that great. We're also able to make Econ for the first time this game. It's lit. I end up taking a huge loss here since I'm really relying on this win streak to be my main source of income. I'm at Krugs, I'm level 5 with only 10 gold. The bright side is that I do have a strong board and I'm sitting at 94 HP. At Krugs, I'm able to get a bow, rod, and a belt. With the extra rod, I'm able to at least make Hex Tech on my LeBlanc. At this spot, my items are angled towards Viego, especially with the spat since it could easily be Renegade or Oxforce. It does suck that I'm not dropped an item to complete the spat. I wish I had more slimeable items here, because I have to waste another carousel catering to the spat. Our next augment is a gold augment, and insta take Oxforce spat. I'm thinking I could play 2 Oxforce spats, I get an extra Annie, and I could slam Oxforce right now on my LeBlanc, which synergizes well with my admin. Looking back at this footage, maybe I could have taken component grab bag, since I have some pretty open components, and I already have an open spat that I can make Oxforce crest with. I level up to 6 here on interval, despite being so broke, as I want to keep up the tempo, and have better odds to hit this Annie too. A duplicate Annie as my next in. In the moment, I'm in an awkward spot because of the breakpoints of Oxforce and Spellslinger. Looking back, I definitely should have just put in 4 Spellslinger and 3 Ox. The Oxforce doesn't really matter for the LeBlanc. I want as much damage on her since she's my current carry. My next shop, I'm able to hit that Annie 2 upgrade. At this point, I think my board is pretty stable, at least for stage 3. I don't know why, but I opted to not play 4 Spellslingers, so I end up having Samira as my next in for extra damage. Unfortunately, I think these errors caused me to lose my next fight before Carousel, where I lose by a pretty small margin. This ruins my tempo for the game. I'm already broke as is. It's going to be hard to reach my level 7, level 8 boards with enough gold to roll down with. I'm angling for a Viego comp where Viego is really important, and if I don't hit Viego on my roll down, this game could end up very poorly. I entered the second carousel really healthy. I'm 89 HP, which means I'm last pick. I do feel a little bit grief this carousel since there's no items available to combine with my open spat. My options are Necrotron Cloak, Belt, and Sword, which are pretty lackluster for my spot. I end up picking the Sword to slam GS later on. I don't really think it works well for Viego, but it's a good item in general. Maybe I could have taken Necrotron Cloak to start building towards Ionic Spark. I'm already struggling for items this game, so I'd rather just slam items when I have the opportunity to. After Carousel, we hit a Zoe where we can replace the dead Samira unit on our board. We are a little broke than we would like to be, which makes us feel a little bit pressured since we're so far away from a level 7 or level 8 board. But at least we're healthy and our board strength is pretty stable. I'm just starting to get worried about how my board's going to look like with this Blitzcrank hero augment. We lose against the Anima squad board and we start to feel a little bit pressure since we thought our board was pretty stable at this point. My next shop, I hit a Zed. Before this tournament, I really like playing Zed Viego since you can just put your extra Oxford spat on the Zed and you'll have backline access to other boards' carries as well as griefing the recons whenever they cast, since they'll spend less time auto-attacking because their recon trait procs and they have to move during their cast. I did forget to realize that I only like the setup if the admin is benefiting the Viego. Since our admin only benefits admins, I don't think this line is as effective as I expected it to be. Also with the setup, if you want admin, the Blitzcrank should be a Camille instead, but I feel less inclined to take the Blitzcrank out because of the hero augment. After Carousel, I ended with 1 loss and 1 win. Even though I'm only level 6 with around 40 gold, I am still floating around 76 HP, which is good, and I have some direction for my future board. At Wolves, I'm dropped only 1 component, just the belt. Kinda stinks, but it's okay. It kinda sucks I'm not able to get an item that completes my spat. I've basically been having this dead component since stage 2. And I have to waste a carousel item if I wanted to complete the spat. At the start of stage 4, I level up to 7 here. I do a small roll down to level 7, trying to fish for a high roll Viego. I don't hit the Viego, so I end up putting a Zoe for more healing on my carries at the moment, Zed and LeBlanc. I also want to continue slamming items, so I end up slamming the GS on my Zed. I do a slight roll down since I still think my board is a little bit strong enough to at least econ up to 50 gold and do a level 7 roll down if I'm bleeding out. I do prefer to go for level 8 if my HP allows it. Looking at my items here, I'm greeding a little bit for anti-heal. I definitely could have slammed slugs at this stage. I would like to complete the spat item off of next carousel. Waiting until PvE rounds to complete my leftover items seems a little bit greedy. Every small win or loss in tournament play can have a ripple effect on your overall placement. Not slamming an item versus slamming an item could cause you placement. Our next augment is a gold augment, and I end up insta-taking exiles here. I just think this Viego comp lacks a sufficient frontline, so any more frontline stats that I could get, I would take it. I don't like makeshift armor at this point in the game, since you're going to end up playing for more items as the game drags out. We're trying to save up our gold to go level 8. Our board strength isn't that strong as we lose the next 2 rounds before carousel, but we're sitting at a comfortable 53 HP. Going into our next carousel, we get a little bit excited since we see an Aurelian Soul with a spat, which would kill our dead spat that we've been complaining about all this time. Unfortunately, someone else takes a spat. We have the choice of picking between mod, armor, bow, or Negatron Cloak. We take the armor so we could finally kill our spat that we've been holding since stage 2. After carousel, I hit a double pair, Alistar and Fiora. I pop the Oxford spat off of the Annie and I'm able to put it on my Zed. My board strength is pretty strong, and I feel confident enough to get my econ up to level 8 and go for a deep level 8 rolldown. After carousel, we get a win and a loss, ending the stage with around 40 HP. We notice that the last place is bleeding out a little bit, so our first game of the day, hopefully we could say that we're not 8th. 40 HP means we have a couple of lives left, so we could work towards that level 8 rolldown. We're not that nervous since as long as we hit, we don't think we're going to go bot 4 here. In tournament play, I try my best to aim for top 4 finishes, since that puts you above the average placement curve. If I do get dealt a high roll, obviously I'm going to play for top 2, but I don't have to play a 1st or 8th playstyle, since my main objective is qualifying for the next day. At PvE round, we get dropped a tier, a crit glove, and a component anvil. We pop our item anvil early and end up taking a crit glove, since our last item on the vehicle is probably Hodge, which means we have leftover sword and 2 belts. We can end up building a Warmox with the belts, and then slam our IE on our Zed at the moment. In the future, I don't think it's worth popping the tome early before you do your rolldown, since you never know what units you're going to hit. On stage 5, I level to 8, and I have around 30 gold to roll down with. My rolldown is a little bit stinky poo-poo. I don't hit any Viegos. I only hit a Zoe 2 as my next in, with Fiddlesticks, Belveth, and Leona as my reserves. If I waited to pop off my item anvil, I could have made that Morello and put it on my Fiddlesticks. Anti-heal is very important at this stage of the game. Most comps have healing and you want to reduce that healing as much as possible. At this point, maybe I should just scrap the Viego board in general and then look for a different AP carry. I definitely could have looked towards something like an A-Soul, a Misfortune, or some other AP carries. It's definitely a great pivot point, but I don't think LeBlanc's going to be able to carry me to that top 4 or that top 2 spots. I end up donkey rolling a little bit. I don't think my board is that weak. I could have waited until I hit 1 Viego or a Zed pair. I end up hitting 1 Viego and I sell my level 2 LeBlanc to move items onto my Viego 1 just to put her in at the end of the round for Hacker. I am a little bit lazy at this point. I'm not sure what else I could play. I have this extra Oxforce spat since my main carry is an Oxforce unit. Looking back, I don't even have Renegade in. It just makes sense to stop greeting Hacker and just play a Leona over this LeBlanc. In tournament play, you might just panic like me. Things definitely feel a bit more serious and there's a little bit more pressure on the line compared to your regular TFT ranked ladder game. Playing under this pressure, you might make more mistakes and decisions that you might not normally make. This is something I need to work on, especially when it's my first game of the day. I usually play a lot more nervous since I'm not really settled into the tournament mood yet. For my stage 5 carousel, I get bailed out since there's a Renegade spat. I'm looking at my board and I'm realizing in game that I don't have 3 Renegade in. This helps a lot with the dizziness that I'm feeling since I could probably just have a +1 that is Oxforce and Renegade. After Carousel, I initially put in a Belveth with Oxforce and Renegade. I think this is a pretty good option since it seems beefy enough. I replaced the Annie with LeBlanc as I already have 6 Oxforce with 2 Spats. And I also hit an upgrade of a Z2, so I would want to have Hacker on my Z. I do get mind controlled here and I end up selling this Belveth for a Fiddlesticks. I don't know if that's the best decision, but I ended up doing it anyways. Looking back to this clip, I rolled past an A-Soul. I still need anti-heal. Maybe I could have used an A-Soul instead. Also, I'm starting to think I got baited by this LeBlanc too hard this game. The admin's not even that good, and this LeBlanc could have been an A-Soul or a Belveth. Since I do think Oxford Spat and Renegade Spat work better on those units rather than the Fid. All these bad decisions resulted in me taking 7th place here. It's definitely where you don't want to be after your first game. You want to start the day with some strong momentum. You do have to make sure that you talk to yourself and keep your mental up. If you get 7th your first game, the only way is up, right? There's more upside than downside. Being able to keep a strong mental, even though you go bot 2 in the game, is very important. Looking back at this game, definitely made a lot of mistakes. I think a lot of it was just due to the amount of nerves that I was feeling. You know, once the nerves get out of me for this first game, I can clutch up and maybe do well the second game. So after my first game, I went 7th. This puts me at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to the standings. Looking at this picture, you could just do the math. Remember, we want to hit that top 16 mark, since top 16 is basically what's going to qualify you into the next day. Into our second game, we're still pretty confident about AP flex. Maybe we won't get screwed by our admin choices or our roll down, since those were the key things that screwed us last game. I end up with the same start as last game, where I have a Lulu with a Rod. My second shop, I get another Lulu and a Kale. I'm thinking I could play either AP flex or underground. I end up getting dropped 2 Ezreals and a Draven here. I'm already grinning from ear to ear. I'm already hoping that maybe I can get underground straight from the 2-1. I trade one of the Ezreals here for Renekton and a Gangplank. Maybe I can end up playing Draven this game. You kind of want to set up yourself for the most flexible start that you can if you're not committed. Next shop, I pick up the Fiora. Maybe I want to lean towards that Viego angle. We end up getting a gold star here. So once we get a gold star, we open sell. Once we make 10 gold, we have our Ezreal on bench, we have a Kale on board. Maybe you can hit underground, and that would be a really good start to this game. If not, we could play for the Lulu pair. Yeah, really lucky hero augment. We get a 2-cost hero augment, and what's the underground that we're missing? We're missing a Vi. I get a Vi as one of my options. I wish this Vi augment was Unbouncing Force instead, since you're able to stabilize with that Vi carry augment early on. But boxing lessons is just as good. I also was looking at Rock Solid, but this is really not the setup for it. I could reroll for Unbalancing Force here. I don't want to get more dog. I already have an underground setup. Who knows if I'm going to be able to hit this Vi within 4 rolls. We end up taking the Vi augment here, and we just start a game with underground. We have a really good opener. We have a gold opener, Nico opener, and a pretty flexible items if we want to play that 80 flex line, right? And on Carousel, maybe I'm looking for a Hex Tech to finish up this Rod, or a Last Whisper to finish up this Glove. Big strategy that I like to do early game, trying to scout to see if you could cheese maybe one person slacking, maybe they have 1 unit on one side. The main thing that you have to conserve is just HP. You're basically sleeping at the wheel. I'm seeing where I could scrape HP wherever I can. I end up getting lucky through my first 2 stages. I didn't go against anyone that tempo leveled. I ended up getting at least 1 unit per round. I go into this carousel with 88 HP on a 3 loss, which is kind of insane to me. From this spot, I have HP conserved, I have the gold start, and I kind of get the item that I want. Something that I noticed when scouting during Carousel is that there is another underground player to look out for. I don't mind full stacking the next 2 stages, since these next 2 stages are generally hard to kind of get 1 unit off of these boards. These people are usually looking to level up to level 5. And since my strategy is the full stack, I definitely have to commit to it, even if I am going to lose a little bit more HP than I would like. Usually when you're stuck in a position like this, you have so much free time to kind of think about what comps you want to play with the items that you have. In this game, I'm kind of just thinking, I think I want to end up playing Samira Flex. My favorite front line to play with Samira Flex is next set. So kind of just thinking about what I want to play after I'm done stacking all these rounds. I end up selling to have 3 units on my board and end up trapping one of my units to be super duper weak to grief the other underground person. Unfortunately, I did not match up against the other underground person. Definitely would have griefed their loss streak. Could have gotten me 1 placement higher. Definitely would have been able to grief their game plan. That didn't happen. I end up losing a lot more HP than I would like. But I end the stage with a really good amount of HP. I think around 70 HP, which is super fine for a 5 loss. As long as I can hit my units, as long as I'm not losing too much HP, it's a start that I really like. Progs, I get dropped an armor and 2 swords. 2 swords I think is a little unnecessary. At least I get to kill my Rod by slamming a Hex Tech, and I leave myself open to that anti-heal with the armor. Start of stage 3, I know that I don't really have to sack any more HP. I can start playing a real board. Try to conserve as much HP as I can. I end up putting a Draven on my boards. He's pretty much the premier AD unit to pivot into whatever AD flex that you would want. End up putting a Riven as well. Riven has an easy splash trait of Defender for my level 6 board. Thankfully, I can continue my lose streak where I had this massive econ lead, and I've been able to take at least 1 or 2 units per fight. Our second augment ends up being silver. I'm focusing on 80 flex. Luden though goes is out of the question. I will grab back here. I need the extra as I'm running under. I end up getting second win here, which synergizes well with lessons. Vi apply team assistant HP and buff. I level the 6 here. I have 50 gold. I'm able to put a Wukong in here where the defender synergizes really well with boxing lessons and second wind. Even though I'm lose streaking, I still feel that my board is a little bit strong enough to clip maybe 1 or 2 units, which is where you really want to be when you're playing underground. I end up taking my underground 2 cash outs. I already know I'm super ahead of the curve with gold. Taking even more gold allows me to hit that level 7, level 8 spike even faster. If I had 4 underground since the start of the game, it would be a much easier time to go for those higher heists. Knowing that I went 7th last game, I definitely don't want to go bot 2 again. I think that definitely played some influence into my decision making here. A thing to remember is that I do have a Nico on bench. The faster I can get to level 8, the faster that I could roll down and look for my units, the faster I could spike. This results in the faster that I could start winning out and not bot 4. At stage 2 carousel, I'm at 46 HP. Which is a pretty good HP to be at with the econ lead that I have. So I kind of high roll by hitting a Samira on carousel with a crit glove, which works very well with the open sword that I have, a hex tech, Gunblade, and a Last Whisper. So I'm able to have a 3 itemized AD carry that I'm looking to play from the mid to late game. Maybe I could have gone for another heist with the Samira by putting in 4 underground the next turn. But, you know, hindsight is 2020. I still believe that taking the gold there is important. I want to make sure I can get to my roll down as quick as possible. After getting Samira off the carousel and knowing that I have a Nico on bench, I'm level 7, 50 gold. There's no way I don't hit a single Samira. If I don't, I'm probably just like the worst TFT player of all time. I definitely want to stop my lose streak here. I've done a good job of getting on a perfect 8 loss streak here. I don't want to lose 2 more fights. It'll put me into a little bit of a danger zone. Maybe I could have kept on lose streaking, but there's no reason to lose streak since I took out underground. I roll here with maybe like 30 gold to spare. I hit Samira pair and I'm able to Nico it and get a Samira too. Winning the next 2 rounds is pretty big. It gets a huge pressure lifted off my shoulders where I don't want to go 8th. I don't want to go bot 2. I did really bad in my last game. I got 7th place. I'd want to at least top 4 this game. I feel like I'm in a decent spot to win out stage. I end up getting dropped to Sunfire at Wolves. I'm able to get my anti-heal going. I do have a open rod. I am thinking about maybe reforging this, but let's maybe wait a little bit. I definitely want to start building frontline items since I have a 3 item carry. So I want to get rid of this rod as much as possible. I do think my board is pretty strong for a 4-1 board. I have a Samira 2, a pretty decent frontline, and my augments are both combat augments in a good spot to greed my gold on 4-1 and then look to level up on interval at 4-2. And then maybe roll down to kind of hit these pairs. I have a set pair, Riven pair, a Sejuani pair. If I can hit these pairs, I'll be in a really good spot. Our last augment ends up being Prismatic. Verdant Veil has the ability to create such a high cap on your board since you're basically giving your whole team QSS. CC is super heavy when it comes to late game boards. You have to look out for Sejuani, Urgot, and Fiddlesticks CCing your whole board. So Verdant Veil is definitely takeable here. Woodland Charm. Looking at my board, I feel like I have enough frontline. I end up taking Verdant Veil here for more offensive power, and I think it gives me the highest cap. I end up leveling to 8 on 4-2, and I end up doing my roll down. Wasn't able to hit my Sejuani pair or my Riven pair, but I was able to find a Fiddlesticks, a set 2 pair, and a Senna pair. My board is in a decent spot. We also roll into this future cycle who can't place their Radiant Zephyr on their backline unit to Zephyr my Samira since this rat already has a Zephyr on the vein. I'm able to kind of have a round to breathe and kind of think about what I'm going to play, scout out what other players have as their Prismatic. I end up donkeying until maybe I can hit an upgrade, and I end up hitting this Urgot. I ended up selling the Riven and replacing it with a Fiddlesticks. I think Fiddlesticks is a really good Sunfire holder since he's Sunfiring the front line, and then if your opponent's backline is clumped, it will go into the backline and apply Sunfire that way. We have been scouting out the whole time. We noticed that Clear is win streaking, and win streaking with Rock Solid. The Verdant Veil that we took doesn't really apply to this comp, so we're kind of screwed here. We're trying to win out stage 4. This kind of kills our streak. This Malphite is impossible to kill. End up losing our streak here. We're a little bit worried for late game. We know that we don't have that many lives left. And if we keep rotating into this comp, we're definitely not going to be able to top 2. We need to start figuring out how to kind of kill this thing, but I have no clue on how to kill this unit. I feel like this unit is just unkillable. I have too much AD damage. Yeah. Since I just got brutally murdered by that Malphite, I wanted to look for more AP damage. I was second pick. I had a lot of options available to me. I end up going for the crit gloves. Maybe I could go for JG on my fiddlesticks. I could have went for Negatron Cloak and create an Ionic Spark on my fiddlesticks, which is a really good offensive item. Forgot I had a Zac pair. I end up getting a Zac 2 off of Carousel. Worst case, it could turn into a TG later. Definitely don't want to sell this Zac right now. Second case, I could maybe just remove it. I still feel confident in my boards. I could just wait until the end of this stage to see what items I get and what items to slam. I don't think I'm going to lose anytime soon. I also get my upgrade of Sejuani 2. I feel like this board is pretty stable. Since I have an Urgot, I could look to go to level 9 off of this board. Unfortunately, that Malphite matchup is just really bad for me. I'm feeling pretty confident about my spot. To keep in mind, I went 7th last game, so I definitely want to try my best to get this game to be a top 2, top 3. The best way to put myself in a position for that is to go for level 9. Off of PvE round, I'm able to get a crit glove and a belt. I look to make a TG on my Zac and reforge the Sunfire. I want to make sure that I have a really good way of applying anti-heal, and my favorite way is having a Morello on Fiddlesticks. The Sunfire reforges into a Protector's Vow, which is a really good case scenario. I then slam the Morellos on my Fiddlesticks and the Protector's Vow on my Sejuani. Protector's Vow on Sejuani is just, it makes the most sense. She's able to cast earlier. Her cast is very important in these mid to late game fights. I'm able to keep mini streaks going. When I go against this rock solid Malphite, my streak keeps getting broken. I'm running into rock solid Malphite on repeat. My HP is getting chipped away each time. I'm getting a little bit worried. I definitely don't want to go against this board any more times. If I go against this board again, I put myself at risk for maybe getting buffed for this game. I know that I'm not going to be able to get first this game unless I could beat this board. I had to start thinking of ways of how I could play against this rock solid Malphite. I feel like this setup is just so gross. At stage 5 Carousel, I end up going for Zephyr here. Maybe I should have went for a more offensive component. When I'm going against the rock solid board, I could just Zephyr to Malphite, and Zephyr works well for all the other boards. Looking back at it, maybe I should have went for a more offensive items, have more damage on my backline. My front line seems pretty strong enough. Most of these fights are kind of just decided by if I could out damage their carries. Some players died in between my last fight with rock solid Malphite. I kind of got matchmaking diffed here, where since that matchmaking gets reset, you could go against another player that was previously in your rotation. I end up rotating twice in one stage into this rock solid Malphite, the only comp that's beating me. That's the biggest caveat running underground. You might take a loss here and there before you can get to your final board. We're not really rolling, we're not really leveling up, we're not getting any stronger at this moment. Or I kind of just get a double loss in stage 5 to this board purely due to matchmaking, and it brings my HP down to a lower amount I would have liked. That's the beauty of TFT though. Some things are just not within your control and you kind of just get more dogged, but it's alright. It happens. It's okay. End up griefing myself putting the Zephyr on my Urgot. Definitely a mistake. I should have just put it on a frontline unit. Maybe something like the Vi or the Set or the Sejuani, since they're easier to move than my Urgot. I ended up popping my item anvil, and looking at all these items, there's not really that many offensive items that I could choose from, so it's an easy choice. Ginsu is honestly a really good here. I prefer to have Ginsu on Aphelios. I feel like he scales really well with attack speed. Falling out most of stage 5, I'm at level 9 at 6-1 with around 40 gold to roll down. I'm kind of just looking for that Aphelios to upgrade +1 unit, which ends up being an all-star so that I could get Aegis and Oxforce. I am kind of just tunneling in onto that matchup with the Malphite, where Malphite does a lot of magic damage, kind of maximizing for that. It also helps that most of the lobby is AP. Looking back at this VOD, maybe I could have moved some of the items from the Samiro to my Aphelios. I'm kind of just greening that. Hopefully I can make it to Carousel and then get an extra item for my Aphelios and then have items still on my Samiro so that I have a supplemental carry. I definitely should have just moved overs onto the Samiro and then done the opposite, where just have my extra ED items on the Samiro too, or if anything, if I hit Urgot 2, put extra items on him. Our backline holds on in this fight. It's super close. If I lost this round, then I would have been sent 4th place at most, since it's a 1 unit loss. I'm kind of just glad we hit our goal. We got our top 4. And after that excitement, after realizing that like you have top 4, I'm kind of thinking like, okay, how can I position my team to kind of take this 3rd, take the 2nd, and go for the win. This turn, I make sure to bounce off my Zephyr off the Urgot, get me a free Zephyr placement for my next fight. Urgot 2 might win me the game, but the moment that counts right now is getting to that top 3. Every fight matters. We know that our next opponent has Prismatic Future Sight, so we want to make sure that we're trying to break their legs as much as possible. I wasn't the best at moving any of my units. I end up leaving a spot in between between my carries. My Samira gets Radiant Zephyr. At least we still win the fight. I should have placed a random backline unit like a Vi or an Alistar just so I can mix up my juking game. It's kind of a 50-50 between the Samira and the Aphelios. I can have that extra unit there, make it into a third chance of Zephyring my unit. I missed the 1 out of 2 chances to hit either the other Misfortune player or against my weakness, this whole lobby rock solid player. Looking at the spot, can we minimize the day to at least take, or how we win comp, so maybe we could be top for. I end up replacing my Urgot a Leona, so just in case my locked on Malphite, if I could maybe kill the that way. Looking at this clip, I should have replaced the Zac with the Urgot and then have more CC available and then have my TG on the Leona, so maybe the Leona rolls good items and gets her ulti off. I end up using my remover to bounce off the Zephyr, look to Zephyr to Malphite. I should have just removed the Samira items and moved it to Aphelios, but in the moment I just choked. After removing my Zephyr, I end up missing my Zephyr anyways. Maybe if I Zephyred the Malphite, the fight could have gone a little bit differently. Even with Last Whisper, with Sure Shot stacking up, this Malphite unit, man, it still takes me out. I honestly just got rocked here. And my third place could have been a combination of matchmaking diff, not saving HP where I could have, maybe a little bit of itemization errors with the Aphelios and the Samira. Sometimes maybe that's just Exodia and I couldn't do anything to counter this comp. It's a perfect counter to 80 flex. I can't really get through this Malphite. Yeah, we end up taking third here. You know, we're just glad that we got a top 4. We're definitely a little bit upset since we could easily beat the other second place player and we lost to matchmaking. It is what it is. We got our top 4. Hopefully we can keep top 4ing and get better placements throughout the day. After my first 2 lobbies, I end up in the bottom half of the 32 players. We're only one point away from the middle of the pack, so we're definitely not too nervous at this moment. That second game was really clutch for us to go top 4 after getting 7th. Also, as we mentioned previously, lobbies rotate every 2 games. Here is my second lobby for games 3 and 4. We notice it's a completely different lobby, and this could just happen. You could avoid certain players throughout the whole day even. It just depends on how the lobby is being generated. Thinking about our game plan, it kind of changed after the first lobby. Felt that AP was really contested in my lobbies. Everyone knew the tech. Going into my second lobby, I'm kind of just thinking maybe I could play a little bit more flexible and play for 80 flex as well as AP flex, and really focusing on what people are playing so I can go uncontested. A realization that I made at this point in the day was Underground is a trait that's really broken for tournament play. If everyone's playing at the same level, you kind of think about how can you get your edge over other opponents besides, the augment choices that you're making, the items that you're getting dropped, the units that you're getting dropped, and all these other factors. The big thing that a lot of players were playing for is that underground start, where you can put yourself ahead with your cash outs with gold or items. The way I've always played underground was playing AD flex. Maybe I should have practiced underground into AP flex a little bit more and I would have been more prepared. Sometimes you're just not able to prepare the lines that you wanted to play. So going into this game, I definitely had more eyes open towards flexible play. It's still anybody's game after 2 games. Hopefully I can keep on grinding through these games and keep top 4ing, maybe get that top 2. And yeah, let's go into our third game. Going into game 3, I wanted to play more for AD and AP flex and just being as flex as possible. The lobby was pretty split half and half between AD and AP. I was just thinking, you know what? I'm comfortable with AP. Let's just look to play AP in this lobby. I ended up picking up the Gangplank that could make the most use of an AP item. Off the bat, I'm already excited. My 6 gold is 2 champs, Sona and Cho'Gath. I'm not for the Cho'Gath as much. Sona doesn't get underground as well as work slinger spells, can work with heart. It's just 12 8 in general. First shop is also a banger, so I'm able to pick up this kill, and you already know I'm praying for this Vi or this Ezreal that could come up in my next shop. I'm 2 off 3 underground. I pick up a Renekton pair as well. I end up not selling this Cho'Gath. Maybe I should have sold the Cho'Gath. Don't end up picking up a Gangplank pair, which is pretty strong unit in the early game. Maybe I'm just thinking I already have enough backline units and this Cho'Gath is a frontline unit that I could just put it. Just bam. This game's I'm already super excited about. I end up hitting underground at 1-4. I have 3 underground in. It's not 4 underground, but we're still excited about it since underground is one of the best starts that you could get in a tournament game. Our items are a little bit AP heavy. Like I mentioned, I kind of like playing underground with AD flex, thinking maybe this could just be a Hex tech and I could go for like a Ginsu to make it AD centric. Usually want to save a bow for a Last Whisper, as we don't necessarily have to slam since this could still be a really flexible game since we have this underground start. Our first augment is a gold augment. With an underground start, I don't think I'm ever going to be playing Ace Crest. True 2s, I usually like to play it with tempo. But since we're playing already for Lost Streak, I don't want to take it. So that leaves us our last choice of Jewel Lotus. I feel like Jewel Lotus is just a good augment that scales well with underground. Underground, you're playing for kind of a higher cap than usual, and Jewel Lotus puts you at a higher cap. So we end up taking Jewel Lotus here. We end up high rolling and we hit the luckiest start, just 4 underground at 2-1. We have Jewel Lotus, so we're definitely able to play it for a higher cap later on. We have our Hex Tech ready if we want to play 80 Flex or AP Flex, so it's definitely a slammable item. At this moment, we're kind of just snoring at the wheel, just trying to position so we can take 1 unit per round. And then if there's anyone else loose streaking, we want to make sure that we full stack so we don't mess up this opener. This opener we definitely want to loose streak with. The way I position my underground units is I like to stack them all to one side, have the backline units right on top of each other and focus the same opposing frontline unit. And I also like to keep my Sona and my Vi in the front as well. I feel like Sona is a little bit tankier than the other 2 units. Maybe she can get a heal off. When you're playing underground, just think of all the ways you could cheese as much HP as possible. And yeah, this is one of the ways to do it. Unfortunately, I ended up cheesing the wrong sides and the wrong units. I'm only able to kill 1 unit, so my HP isn't as lucky as the previous game. When you're playing the start, you kind of want to think about what comps you could play for later. Lucky enough, I'm able to hit admin onto 3 to clear out an admin line. Admin ends up being 25 AP at the start of the round, which I don't think is Exodia. I don't think it's going to be able to get me that top 2 win that I really want. It is a good top 4 augment, so I end up taking that as a backup in case I don't hit the units that I want. In this point, I still want to keep playing for a strong level 7, level 8 board that will take me to win out. With underground, you just want to think about all the win out comps. You're putting yourself ahead of the curve by a lot in terms of items and gold, but you're sacrificing HP in return. You want to make sure that you could pick a comp that could win out. At my first carousel, I'm thinking what item could kill this rod. I'm still looking at an 80 flex line since that's what I'm comfortable with. A lot of players in this lobby after scouting seem to be going for AP flex, so I definitely don't want to be contested. The cherry on top to go forward with playing 80 flex is a bow on a 3-cost unit. Cost of the unit kind of matters since I want to snowball as much econ as possible. This 3-cost unit off the carousel allows me to keep this vibe pair, and it allows me to hit 20 gold. There's no one else that's full out loose streaking like me. I could position like a normal human being and try to conserve as much HP as possible. Sitting at 64 HP, we have 30 gold, we're level 5. We definitely feel a little bit ahead of the curve with our underground cooking up some heists. I think 64 HP is pretty mid-roll. I'm fine with the HP that I'm sitting at. I get another rod at Krugs. Maybe I could have pivoted to AP at this point with this many rods, but I'm pretty much committed to playing 80 flex since it's definitely what I'm most comfortable with underground. And my way of thinking is if you're playing uncomfortable during a tournament, you're definitely going to make a lot more mistakes that will end up costing you more than if you just didn't pivot. So I end up not thinking that I should pivot here. Since I get the extra rod, I'm leaning towards making a Ginsu with this rod that's already on my bench and this bow. I get dropped in armor. If I want to play for tempo, maybe I could slam a Lockett here, or I could greed for a Sunfires. As you know me, I really like prioritizing anti-heal. I ended up being able to make a Vi 2 here, which is pretty lit, and I also get a Lee Sin, which synergizes well with the Sona and just Brawler in general. Definitely want to set up hero augments as much as possible, and unfortunately I wasn't able to, so I'm kind of just praging here. Hopefully I don't get hero augment and it's just a standard game. Maybe it's a gold augment, or maybe I can hopefully get Tiny Titans and continue this loose streak even further. So it ends up being Prismatic as our second augment. None of these augments work for playing 80 flex. The most logical choice for me is just to reroll here since I have that reroll available. I end up rerolling. I get Curse Crown. I'm definitely not taking that. I'm already dying. I don't want to die any faster. CP3 I could take. I already have Healing Slammed and I'm not going to be able to make use of it. And I just don't think Celestial Blessing is a really good augment for the spot that I'm in and for the comp that I want to go towards. I ended up taking Band of Thieves since despite the stats being pretty bad on Prismatic Band of Thieves, Thieves Gloves works really well with Jewel Lotus. Your units already have a base critical chance of 25%. Jewel Lotus increases that percentage by 20%. And then your Thieves Gloves grant you 40% base crit chance, not depending on the items that's being rolled. So at the maximum, your TG units are going to be able to have an 85% crit chance available to them. This allows me to play an AP carry, just slam TG on them. They have a near 100% chance of critting, so they're just really strong. I believe it's a really strong augment to take in this moment, and it also scales well. Out of all the other options I had available to me, I think this was the best choice. I end up getting a Kaisa in my shop, which is probably the best unit that I could fit into this comp at this moment. Kai'Sa's hitting at a 100% crit chance because of all the crit factors that we were talking about before, as well as recon being in. Since the augment is prismatic at 3 at 2 and I'm running underground, I'm loose streaking. I'm a little worried. I might be too weak and I might die out before I can get a really good cash out. Maybe I'll get the cash out and die right after. I'm looking to slam as much items as possible. I end up slamming our Ginsus on our Ezreal. We also end up slamming a Locket. This will allow us to soften the blows within each fight as we're waiting for this ticking time bomb of a cash out. Hopefully our cash out will allow us to win out with these suboptimal slammed items. I don't want to go bot 2. I want to go top 4 if anything. I definitely want to set myself up to have a good enough HP when I cash out. I ended up losing 1 round and winning 1 round to end at 46 HP before the second carousel. I still have my cash out to play for. I can cash out my heist after a carousel if it's a good enough cash out. This stage 3 carousel, so high roll for me. I end up getting a Samira on carousel with a crit glove. This allows me to have the option of either continuing my heist with 5 underground. Since I just finished my heist right before carousel, the next heist would at least take 3 more rounds. I could sneak in a couple wins and get my next heist that way, or I could stack the next 2 rounds. That'll definitely leave me at a much more favorable HP point compared to only having 4 underground. Be honest to me, would y'all take this cash out? We have a Last Whisper being made with this recurve bow. We have Obsidian Cleaver and a Mana Zane. Making a Last Whisper goes out the window because we have the Obsidian Cleaver and the Mana Zane. What carry could we realistically put this on later? I think this is a pretty decent cash out, but I could just put in the 5 underground. Like it. Let's just go for a bigger heist. We're at a decent spot where we could afford to greed. Leveling here to put in the Samira. We also hit a Sejuani here to replace our Lee Sin. We level here. We're still in a good spot economically. We're trying to save as much HP as possible while pursuing this next heist cash out. Our next shop, we high roll and we hit a Samira pair. And we hit a Sivir, so we could take out this Kai'Sa, move the items on over from the Ezreal, and we have a really good setup. After carousel, we end up winning a round and then losing a round. Maybe we could have just took the double loss and then cashed out. It's okay. We're at 8 out of 10 cash outs. Even if we or lose at 4-1, we'll be able to cash out. Hopefully, I could win the next round and not even go below 34 HP. We get dropped 2 bows and a tier here. The 1 bow is great since we are able to slam our Last Whisper and create a 3-item backline carry. For the last 2 items, you know my deal. I'm kind of just worried about preserving HP. Shiv isn't that bad for the late games. I end up slamming Shiv here just so we can get that extra board strength. My biggest priority is just making sure that I can get to my cash out at a reasonable HP. Once we realize we're 1 win or 1 loss away from our cash out, we could take out our 5 underground, reduce it down to 3 underground. Since the first 2 augments are gold and prismatic augment, we know 100% that our last augment is going to be a hero augment. This is one of the augment sequences. We don't have to roll here. Our spot is actually really good. We have 50 gold. We're level 7. Hopefully we are able to hit a Samira augment here since we're sitting on the Samira pair. We're not really feeling too much pressure. We're just hoping that our cash out boosts us up even forward so we can get a really good win out situation going. I end up losing the round right before my cash out, and this leaves me at 24 HP. We're just hoping our cash out made all the HP loss worth it. The hero augments end up being 5-5-4. I'm kind of just fishing for this Daredevil Samira augment. We have a Samira pair on bench, and we reached a low enough HP threshold where we are getting really good value out of this. Maybe I could have taken the locked and loaded. I kind of just wanted to make a Samira 2 right away. We have all our items slammed on the Samira, so there's no way we could kind of transfer the items onto our Filios. So in this case, I kind of just take it right away. We were able to get that cash out. Luckily, we got a Tactician's Crown as a cash out. I think it's one of the best cash outs. We end up getting a Samira 2 anyways, which is okay because we still have the Daredevil value that we're getting from it. Once we take the cash out, we level up right away on interval. We're trying to swap out our board as fast as possible. When I roll down, I end up hitting 2 Aphelioses, get a set 2 upgrade. I get an Echo so I can just slam in there and get some Aegis and Defender value. My Riven also gets upgraded, and I'm also getting Alistar. At the end of the round, I end up putting 2 Aphelioses since I forgot that I had the extra space on my board. I think I'm in a really good spot here. I'm up an extra unit. I have a Samira 2. My front line's pretty much upgraded. This is kind of a comfort zone for me since it's kind of simulating last game, just working kind of with the same set of units. Maybe I should scout the lobby a little bit to see if I need Aegis for this lobby. Do I need this Defender? Do I need the traits that I need? Or can I put in other frontline units or other backline units? We win our next round against the 8th place person, and we can just be happy at the fact that this game, we're not 8th. That's always a sigh of relief, and it gets you a little bit more comfortable. Hopefully top 4 again this game. We're at a lower HP threshold than we would have liked, but we're comfortable enough where we could aim for that top 4 spot. The turn after, I'm able to roll down more. I'm able to get Leona and have 4 Aegis in, get Sejuani 2, and feel really strong. I feel really confident against most of my opponents. I believe it's the right move to kind of just gain as much gold as you can, and if I am in within kill range, then I'll roll down the gold that I've been saving up. If not, if I'm able to continue winning out, then I'm gonna play for that level 9 board, just so I can get better units and an extra slot to put in another legendary, such as your Fiddlesticks, Urgot, or maybe a double Sejuani, whatever I can hit. My next 2 fights before the carousel are Stomps. I'm feeling myself a little bit, you know. We thinking maybe a little top can get to the top 4. We'll see what we can do here. My next carousel, I ended up picking a belt. Looking back to this VOD, do I need any more frontline? Maybe I do. I think I was just a little bit worried that I don't want to get burned for not having anti-heal in the late game. Maybe I could have gone for another crit so I can get more damage going on a random unit, just because I already have Jewel Lotus to stack with it. It does allow me to have an Echo Pair, and a good item that I could use, as well as having a pair off of carousel, is definitely important to me. Even though looking back at this footage, I feel confident about my board. I guess in the moment, you kind of can't think properly. Kind of near death. I don't want to go bot 4. I'm sitting on pairs. In the moment, I definitely felt like it was right to kind of donkey roll and hit these upgrades. Probably could have greeted a little bit. I should be confident in my board strength, be slowly econing up to 50 gold, maybe go for level 9 if I can keep winning out. I definitely think it's a big mistake to keep donkey rolling here for pairs that aren't really going to win me a game. My items aren't on an Echo, Philios, and Alistar. I definitely should have just saved my gold and played a little bit more confident in my board. At the start of stage 5, I ended up finding a Fiddlesticks. I swapped out my Vi 2 for a Fiddlesticks with TG and Jewel Lotus. It does a lot of damage and such a reliable source of CC. I think it's more viable than a Vi 2. And I ended up getting dropped a Negatron Cloak and having the option of a couple items here. I ended up going with Runins. I'm a firm believer that I kind of just need more and more damage, as much damage as possible. After I got my Fiddlesticks, it seems like I stopped rolling. You know, my Fiddlesticks, it's pumping out the damages with this Jewel Lotus and the TG combo. Look at the damage charts. Some rounds it's doing more than my severe damage. It kind of just depends. I definitely feel a little bit more confident to go into level 9, slow down on the donkey rolling, and hopefully I can continue to win out. The pressure's getting a little bit alleviated. Other players are getting lower HP than me. I could definitely feel less nervous about the decisions I'm making, since I know I'm at least going to be in the top 4 range. Maybe you could go for the top 2, but once you're at the top 4, personally, it's like a huge weight that's lifted off my shoulders, and I could start to play a little bit more confident. It's definitely something that I need to work on, playing when I'm behind and getting that anxiousness out of me. You know, we all gotta work on it. I'm able to win out pretty easily. I kind of grieve this next carousel. Knowing I have an Aphelios pair, what would you take? Maybe I just take the Ginsu here, call it a day. It works well with my static shiv. It works well with Aphelios. It works well with the Runins. It works out with the whole setup that I have. But I'm just too excited in the moment. My heart's pumping. I'm not making the right decisions, you know. When you see your level 2 legendary on carousel, don't you just make it? Isn't that like the little grief that's inside you telling you, yo, I have to take this? Ionic Spark on Aphelios. It might be this. It's probably worse than slot. But you know your boy was getting mind controlled heavy and I had to take it. I don't think it's the best choice, but you know, it is what it is. You gotta be confident with the choices that you make. And yeah. Oh my god, though. Ionic Spark Aphelios this late into the game. Like, I'm killing an extra slot, an extra damage slot that I could have placed on him. I'm guaranteed to hit Aphelios 2 at level 9. Guaranteed. You know, why leave it up to luck when you could just grab an Ionic Spark Aphelios 2 off the carousel? Yeah, looking back at this, I think this is just such a huge grief. I was hyped in the moment, and that's all that matters. My win streak has been brought to a stop by this Camille reroll. I'm off sides of my Samira. Camille was able to get on my Samira right away. This Camille board is pretty strong and it counters my comp well. I'm kind of shaking a little bit. It's just one loss. Still believe I'm at 1 life until it reaches stage 6. Still commit to a level 9 spike. If I die with 50 gold, I'm just bad. In this spot, the only upgrade I could really go for is Alistar, and I'm 1 stage away from PvE round. Might as well just wait and go for a level 9. After that round, we're just happy. We hit top 4. You already know what it is, baby. We're just happy we're here. And when we scout, we realize, you know, we're a little bit traumatized by the Camille hacker, but there also is a Zed Gashin hacker that we have to look out for. So just positioning around that is definitely going to be important in our future rounds. Definitely trolling a bit. We just got hackered on 2 fights in a row. What are we doing? Like, I should be positioning a little bit better. Maybe I could have the Fiddlesticks above my Samira. Maybe I could have both AD carries on the same side. I'm kind of just a loss for words. Maybe I could just stack everything backline so the Zed has nowhere to hacker to. These 2 losses are pretty major. Every HP matters in these types of spots. On the plus side, we're just big brain enough. We're just maximizing our Daredevil value. We're sitting at 2 HP. 98 HP going towards Daredevil? Like, aren't I just the best player? It's a little grief, but I'm glad that we have Daredevil to at least work out with our grief mistakes. We're only looking for like tank items, still looking for anti-heal for the Zed matchup, for the Camille matchup. It's just a general item that you kind of want late game. We just insta-click the Morello. We're going straight to level 9 and we're going to see what we can put in. Once we get to level 9, we have around 20 gold to roll with. We end up selling our Riven and replacing it with a Leona, Urgot, and since we leveled up level 9, we have an extra spot. We just end up playing 2 Fiddlesticks, slamming the Morellos on one of the Fids. The Janna weather is windy, so I don't know why I didn't put in windy weather. Dumb stuff happens and we don't get punished this turn. We're able to beat the Viego Aphelios board and live to see another day. Next round we hit the God shop, finishes up our pairs. We hit an Urgot 2, Fiddlesticks 2, just for fun. If you're ever curious how someone hits these upgrades in 10 gold, that's how you do it. Once I become less dizzy, I end up slamming the Janna in. I'm able to put Morellos on my Urgot since my Sejuani has a TG on it. After scouting, and the only threat against Camille board is just Camille, so why not backline everything? Camille doesn't get in a good hacker position. We end up looking out this fight since the Camille is CC to death before she could do any damage to my carry. We're happy. It's a top 3, baby. You already know. We're going for that top 2. We're in such a good spot. There's no way we don't top 2 here. It's a little scary though. There is the Gadgeting Zed board who's been streaking for the longest time and guaranteed against the board, so we could position it against 4 against. I ended up playing against this broken Bramble Gadgeting Zoe 3. It's the most big brain shit I've ever seen. It's Zoe 3 with 5 Gadgeting in and a Bramble, which is the biggest counter to my backline carries, and also has Verdant Veil, so I couldn't see this team. Maybe 5 Gadgeting is a little bit busted. Definitely feels a little bit unfortunate to be losing to this board when I had such a great cash out and pretty much a capped board besides Janna 2. This game could have been my top 2, but it's okay. You never know what you're going to face against these other boards. It's just kind of frustrating because my last game I lost against Rock Solid Malphite. And it's kind of the same thing here. 5 Gadgeting, Zoe with Bramble. It feels the same amount of pain. But stuff happens and it is what it is. Stuff I definitely could have done better to get a second this game was maybe to not green in Aphelios 2 with Ionic Spark, making sure that I positioned the 2 rounds back to back when the Zed and Camille player were able to get a free win off of me. That was definitely the difference, and the HP so close is the difference between 3rd and 2nd. Who knows, maybe without the extra Daredevil HP, maybe I would have gone 4th, or maybe I would have gone 5th. Like I said in TFT, you just never know. That puts a wrap on our game 3. After the last game, we were finally able to break into the top 16 for the first time this tournament. And with that, we're a little hyped going into our 4th game. Despite being excited, you already know, job's not done, job's not finished, we still got more to do. We're still in like a 5-way tie for the 16th spot, so it could still be anyone's game. We're just glad that we're able to continue top 4ing, and we've only went bot 2 like 1 time today. Since we're in a good spot, all we have to do is just continue top 4ing. We don't really have to start playing 1st or 8th type of strategy. When we get dealt a high roll, we could start to play for top 2. We're pretty much playing in a really good comfort zone. Going into this tournament, I was legit the last seed. I was player 32nd out of 32nd going into this tournament. We've never played a mid-set finale before. If we could make it to day 2, that would be huge. And if we could keep pushing to day 3, that would be even better. Going into next game, I'm still open about playing flexible as possible, trying to play for AD Flex or AP Flex depending on my opener. I still feel that AP Flex is the stronger board to be going for, just because I played AD Flex my past 2 games, and I'm going into our game for Carousel. We end up going for a Rod even though it's on an Ashe. We want to start playing for more AP boards. Looking at the starting Carousel, everything seems pretty balanced between AD and AP. Both lines don't seem to be particularly contested. I don't know if we're feeling more confident, maybe because we got into the top 16, but we already know we're doing our signature Bard do at the beginning of every game. We're probably feeling ourselves a little bit here. So I kind of high roll my next shop. I'm already dropped an Annie, and I get blessed with this Talon 2, which synergizes perfectly with the Annie. Honestly, at this point, I have a Rod, I have a Talon 2, I have an Annie. We could already start thinking about playing Viego off the bat. We get dropped the Riven here and trade our Ashe in for a Blitzcrank. If we could see our admin early on, we could roll out that line right away. Our next shop, we get a Renekton pair. We end up selling our Riven so we can hopefully go for Renekton 2. And I end up getting dropped a Rod, Negatron Cloak, and a tier. With the Talon 2, this kind of makes me want to play for an AP, more in an AP line, because I could slam Ionic Spark early on in my Talon and have an open tier. Looking at our augment choices, we don't really have a setup for Brawler Crest. The comp that I'm most comfortable with is Jax Brawler. I usually like to have RFC set up to play him, so I roll Brawler Crest out. With Ludens, I feel like your main carries are either Zoe, LeBlanc, or Soraka. I don't know what my admin is, so I'm not sure if I feel comfortable running Soraka and LeBlanc. I got burned earlier for the admin being not as optimal, and that trauma is definitely still in my mind. I ended up picking Funny Frontline here. I think Funny Frontline is a great option if you still don't know what you want to pivot to. Great for mid to late game since it's basically 2 extra units on your board. And if I still want to play towards AP, maybe I can get an admin trait that's ally on def or something like that. It can give me a line to win out with and stay open to other lines at the same time. In my shop, I'm able to hit the Renekton 2. I end up using a lot of time to kind of think about my augment choices. I end up not leveling here since I want to hold these pairs without leveling up. I get punished for it since I'm pretty sure I could have won this round if I had leveled up and put an extra unit in. The next round, we get pretty lucky. We're going against another level 3 player whose board is pretty weak. Able to get a win while also holding our pairs. We have our Lux as our next in, so we can have a little bit more damage with Spellslinger active. And to make gold before Carousel, I end up selling an Ashe pair and picking up the Silas. I don't really have a need for an Ashe 2 for my mid-game board. Silas works well with activating Renegades for my Talon. Going into Carousel, I'm on a 2 win streak along with 96 HP. We end up being last pick here, and we're just looking for an item to slam with this tier. Our board strength is pretty strong, so we're hoping we could win out stage 2. I prefer making a Hodge with this tier. It works well in the Viego comp, but that gets taken away. When it's my turn to pick, I could choose Negatron Cloak, tier, or Rod. I feel like the Negatron Cloak is getting guarded, so I end up taking the tier instead. Blue buff isn't the best land when you're playing Viego. You do have a couple outs in Aesol, Leona, or maybe LeBlanc, but it's pretty suboptimal. We just end up slamming here so we can continue our streak. Chop off Carousel is really good. I get an upgrade to Silas 2. I'm able to get a Camille, which completes that Renegade trio. This also allows me to check my admin. After seeing these admin choices, I pretty much roll admin as a win out condition. I really don't think Soraka or LeBlanc works well with these admin traits. I end up just taking permanent HP per 5 seconds since it stacks with Phony Frontline and it works well for now. I don't know if I'm going to keep admin in until late game. There's no harm in keeping admin in for now. At this point, I think my board is pretty strong. I have 3 upgrades as well as a combat augment. I don't know how I got mind controlled here, but I ended up taking out the Renekton 2 and putting it in Annie. Maybe I just think Oxforce is better because I have 2 item Talon. It ends up costing me as I lose the next fight. The win streak would have been nice since our economy is a little bit low. We're still at a great HP and our board strength is pretty strong, so we can't really complain much about our stage 2. I think I get baited by my admin here. I end up selling the Silas over this Renekton 2. I think having Silas for Renegade as well as having Renegade and Oxforce odds for this 3-2 augment. I'm not sure why I didn't just sell Renekton to make 20 gold. Sometimes you just make mistakes in the moment. Definitely think I should have kept the Silas. At this point, I think I still wanted a little bit direction with the blue buff, and it makes me still think I could play LeBlanc, Zoe, or Raka. At Krugs, I end up getting dropped a bow, an armor, and a glove. I'm not going to slam at this moment since I still want to see what my 3-2 augment is. Definitely thinking about slamming Titans, keep on playing Viego, and just have a crit glove open for a JG or a Hodge. It's not like I'm on a win streak, so I don't feel any pressure to slam any items here. Hero augments, we have tiers 2, 3, and 2 as our options. Once we see the Camille support hero augment, we're just thinking that this is the best hero augment we can get. Synergizes well with Phony Frontline, or at least I hope so. Get a Camille 2 upgrade off of it. Our items are skewing towards Viego. Why not take this hero augment and let's just commit towards Viego. We level up here on interval and ended up putting our Renekton 2 as our next in. We're definitely regretting a little bit selling that Silas 2 and having this Renekton instead, but we make the most out of it. Renekton 2 isn't that bad. I just wish we had the Silas since all our Renegades are upgraded, they could pump out a little bit more damage. Luckily, we roll into 2 underground players for our next matchups and we're able to go on a small, quick little 2 streak before Carousel. I end up being left with a Spat and another Spat as an option. This isn't the worst case in the world since I can make Renegade Spat with the open glove on my bench. Since I realize I'm on a 2 streak as well, I end up slamming the Titans and I end up slamming Renegade to increase my chances of winning out stage 3. I could have leveled to 7 here on interval. I already feel that my board strength is strong enough. I think it's just more important to get my gold up. I ended up having too many upgrades to make early game, so I'm already behind on econ. I ended up taking a loss and a win. Unfortunately, I didn't get to keep going with my streak, But I end the stage with 74 HP, I'm level 6, 50 gold, with a strong board, so I'm not really having too many complaints. Speaking of no complaints, at Wolves, I end up hitting a Viego. I guess I'm just skilled. I end up getting dropped a Negatron Cloak and another Rod here. Even though they're not a slammable item at this moment, they're definitely great components to work with an item I get off next carousel. After Wolves, we end up leveling to 7 and rolling down to around 30 gold to see if maybe we can hit another Viego and roll down even further. Kind of just looking for ways to increase our board strength. After rolling down, I end up with this Hacker Viego board. Not many people were really playing Hacker Viego with Zed. In this meta, I kind of felt that having backline access was important to attack these backline carries. AP or AD, it didn't really matter. In this lobby specifically, there was 2 recon players. Sending a Zed into the backline wastes some of the time from the recon auto attacks as they have to dodge after they cast their abilities. If my Zed doesn't kill any units, at least he's there wasting some time. Our last augment ends up being a gold augment. Thrill of the Hunt is a good choice since I'm lacking healing on my Viego. Maybe I could just build Gunblade on my Viego and be good there. Also, looking back at this clip, maybe it could have been Thrill and have a JG Slam instead for more damage. I end up picking Salvage Bin here, thinking I'm the most big brain player alive. I have an extra Renegade spat on my bench, and if there's a spat on carousel or if there's a spat next carousel, I could hopefully make a fawn. I make the realization that spatulas are only available on after stage 5. If I don't get it at stage 4, it's probably stage 6, which is a long time away from now. Salvage Bin gives me another blue buff, which is kind of just tragic because at this point I have 4 tiers on my bench. I wasn't really comfortable with Aurelion Sol in the Viego comp, but I saw some other players playing this and I definitely wanted to try it. Aurelion Sol is such a great holder of this blue buff, and I don't have any anti-heal slammed at this moment. It just makes sense to play this Asol as a double carry with the items that I'm dealt with. I end up slamming Hodge on Viego so that the Viego at least has healing and has extra damage. And I end up slamming Archangels on my Aurelion Sol since I still feel like I don't have that much damage, but I have a lot more frontline. So I want to make sure that I have enough damage to kill these boards. We ended up going on a 3-loss streak into Carousel since our HP is still fine at the start of the stage, so we could stack a little bit. We'd rather level to 8 and have better odds of hitting a Viego pair. We still have this extra spat, so this could be an Oxlor spat, it could be a Renegade spat. If it's a Renegade spat, we would want to be level 8 so we have our highest chances of hitting a Leona to complete 6 Renegade. So we get so excited after seeing this Leona on Carousel with the perfect item we need to create 6 Renegades on our board. Unfortunately, it just gets taken right away, so that option goes out the window. Since we're last pick, our Carousel choices aren't that great. We either wanted a Crit Glove to complete Renegades, or we wanted an Armor to maybe play for Ox Force. Unfortunately, by the time we go for the Negatron Cloak, that gets taken too, and we're just like, you know what, more damage, how can it hurt? We end up taking an open bow. At this point, maybe we could slam Runins on our Zed, but we're just greeting out until PvE round so we can see what items we can make. I end up leveling to 8 after Carousel. I put in this Fiora for Oxforce and Duelist. Unfortunately, I didn't hit anything else on my roll down, so I'm kind of stuck with this board until the end of the stage. Worst case, I lose streak to the end of the stage and just hope for a better roll down at 5-1. We end up a little bit dizzy since we're not really hitting our upgrades. Donkey rolling each turn for no reason, probably because I'm panicking that I went on such a huge loss streak this stage and I'm putting myself at risk of pot 4ing here. Definitely getting a little bit panicked at this point. Going into PvE round, I'm on this 5-loss streak at 24 HP. I at least end up holding out until Aurelion Sol PvE round, so I could see what items I could get. I end up high rolling this Leona, which all I need at this point for 6 Renegades is just a glove, so I could make a Renegade spat. This gave me the direction I needed so desperately going into stage 5. I ended up getting dropped only gold, no items. Out of my item anvil, thankfully I at least can build Renegade spat. If I didn't hit Renegade Spat, I don't know what else I would do since I didn't hit Oxford Spat as well. Maybe I could have made mascots or whatever, but my game would have been really bad if I didn't hit this. All that gold last round pays off during my roll down at stage 5. I'm able to hit Viego 2. I'm able to hit my Alistar 2. an Aphelios where I swap out my Annie for an Aphelios, and I think my front line's pretty fine, and I'm able to slot that Leona in. We end up slamming Renegade Spat onto our Aurelion Soul. Our A-Soul's basically fully itemized at this point. The last two components, I kind of just slam it on Aphelios. I don't think Runins on anyone else is any better. Our items were definitely not the most high roll, but we're doing the best that we can with what we were given. We ended up going on a 6 loss streak here from stage 4 into stage 5. Things are getting a little bit dicey now. Everyone's HP below 3rd place is really close. Definitely feeling the pressure. I definitely don't want to bot 4 this game. Definitely don't want to bot 2. The chances of that are really high at this point. I do end up being able to hit this Aurelion Soul 2, which was the last upgrade I probably could have hit unless I high rolled and hit Aphelios 2 or Leona 2. I'm basically just fighting for not bot 4. Can't even think about going for top 3 yet. The health disparity is so large. Basically just fighting for my life each turn to get a higher placement. Top 2 or top 3 is just a far goal to even think about right now. So instead of optimizing to get a top 2 spot, you kind of just want to think about, should I be donkey rolling to upgrade my board as much as possible before I die? You're probably not going to make it to level 9, so just roll as much as you can. Once we hit Aurelion Soul 2, we're able to not go 8th, not go 7th, not go 6th, but at least be in the top 5. This 6 Renegade itemized A-Soul was doing the damages that I needed to hang on to this game. The carousel ended up being a bust for me. I didn't really need any of these traits, and I know the other boards can definitely make use of these traits. I'm kind of just thinking, how can I hold on to this game? Maybe I get more damage. I should have went for more damage on my Aphelios instead of healings. A lot of my damage on my comp is just coming from major bursts from the Aurelion Soul and the Viego. I didn't really need sustain for these fights. I ended up picking the Hextech here just because it was on the highest unit, and if I could get a Leona 2 off donkey rolling, maybe that could change my game. Optimizing for less force as much as possible is the goal here. After carousel, I wasn't able to hit this Leona 2 off donkey rolling, so I ended up just moving the Hextech over to my Aphelios since my Aphelios is doing more damage than the Leona. And I'm basically just hoping that I don't run into Jukyu, and maybe I can execute Precedent on this so I can at least end this game as a top 4. I low roll a little bit by rolling into Jukyu, who's on fire, who's playing a crazy Gaj team comp. It didn't even matter though because I end up winning against Jukyu. With this win, it's huge as it allows me to sneak into the top 4. After that win, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, maybe I could take this game. Maybe I could be top 2. I just beat someone that was streaking. This game is all up for grabs. Unfortunately, I roll into a Vayne 3 with spread shot, and yeah, I end up losing. Even though I'm on a 3 streak, I'm getting all my confidence back. I just get stomped in the face. That ends game 4 for me. I ended up taking 4th, which is not the best, but we're still in the middle of the pack. Looking back at this game footage, I could have improved my early game a little bit. Felt like I wanted to be a little bit more flexible than what was really given to me. I probably should have zoned in on Viego a little bit more instead of being baited by playing admin or hacker or some other suboptimal comp. I should have realized faster that A-Soul is probably the unit that you would want to be playing if you get stuck with a blue buff in a Viego comp. I'm glad at least throughout the game I realized that, and that definitely changed my position from being a bot 4 to being able to convert this game into a top 4. After that 4th game, I didn't really do anything special, so my standings are practically still the same. Still within the top 16, but it's a very close margin. There are players trying to sneak in, just as I have snuck in. When you're looking at the middle pack of these players, it could still be anyone's game. Anyone could qualify to day 2. After that 4th game, I didn't really do anything special, so my standings are practically still the same. Still within the top 16, but it's a very close margin. There are players trying to sneak in, just as I have snuck in. When you're looking at the middle pack of these players, it could still be anyone's game. Anyone could qualify to day 2. At the end of the 4th game, it marks our last lobby for the day. Our last lobby for our last 2 games is displayed over here. Since we're in the middle pack, it's still not 1st or 8th bust type of game. We're kind of just hoping that still play for a top 4 standing so we could slip into the day 2. And we're just hoping if we get dealt a high roll, hopefully we can convert that to a top 2. Another thing to note at this point, there are tiebreakers. So the tiebreaker system goes number of wins, number of top 4s, and placement in the recent game, I believe. The fact that I haven't won any games yet is a little bit worrying. I believe since as long as I keep top 4ing, I won't have to worry about that. With that said, let's go into our 5th game. After that 4th game, I didn't really do anything special, so my standings are practically still the same. Still within the top 16, but it's a very close margin. There are players trying to sneak in, just as I have snuck in. When you're looking at the middle pack of these players, it could still be anyone's game. Anyone could qualify to day 2. At the end of the fourth game, it marks our last lobby for the day. Our last lobby for our last two games is displayed over here. Since we're in the middle pack, it's still not first or eighth bust type of game. We're kind of just hoping that still play for a top 4 standing so we could slip into the day 2. And we're just hoping if we get dealt a high roll, hopefully we can convert that to a top 2. Another thing to note at this point, there are tiebreakers. So the tiebreaker system goes number of wins, number of top 4s, and placement in the recent game, I believe. The fact that I haven't won any games yet is a little bit worrying. I believe since as long as I keep top 4ing, I won't have to worry about that. With that said, let's go into our 5th game. I come off with the first carousel. I try going for a rod. I get contested, and I think this is the first carousel that I lose the whole day. I'm not sure if I've just been completely smurfing on my carousels or if I've just been uncontested the whole day. We're going to go with the fact that I'm probably just smurfing all these carousels, except for this one. We end up getting a game plank with a belt. It's not the worst case. It's pretty flexible. My homie Garrett was giving the sad bee emote. I don't know if he's been having a bad day, but if one of us is sad, then we're all sad. And at least we're sad together. My first shop, I'm able to pick up a Wukong pair and a Poppy pair, which is my favorite frontline AD flex start since it's easy to pivot into AD flex. I got all 3 items dropped. With these items, a belt, chain, glove, I'm kind of already thinking AD flex since this is Sunfire and it could be a Last Whisper. My next shop, I end up with a Renekton pair. At this point, I kind of want more backline units, so it's unfortunate that we're getting frontline units. Luckily, we end up getting dropped a Kaisa and a Vayne Orb, which are really good backline units. Our first augment, no surprises here, it's just a regular silver augment. I insta-take item grab bag since in this spot I already have one slammable item, a future second slammable item, and just being up another item would put me so far ahead of the curve. My frontline units are upgraded, along with some strong backline units. Looking at the start, I believe that I could tempo my way into hopefully winning out stage 2. Hacker Heart, I definitely wouldn't take because I don't have any hackers and it's going to be a long time until I get one. Defender Heart, maybe it could have been takeable. I could end up with 4 Defender as my frontline. But like I said, I definitely want to play tempo with items. After picking my augment, I kind of get blessed. I get an IE straight up, Renekton 2, like Wukong 2. Everything's looking good. It's looking like this is an 80 flex heavy game. I get to slam Sunfire on my Renekton. I have an open glove. This could be a Last Whisper for that 80 flex comp. And the only question I have left is, should I level here? I don't really want to sell the Kaisa. I don't really want to sell the Poppy. My next in has to be either the Kaisa or the Poppy. I ended up not leveling here, but luckily I end up going against a level 3 board and I'm able to win without leveling up. Since I won last round and I still think my board is strong enough to win out stage 2, I end up leveling here and I actually don't end up putting in the Kaisa. I ended up putting the Rel that I picked up last round. I have a Sunfire on an upgraded tank, which I think is enough damage for these opening rounds. I end up high rolling my next shop, which is the easiest replacement for my Rel. I get a Riven. I end up facing the problem of having no econ since my onboard units and my bench units are too costly. I ended up pre-leveling here. Maybe I can hit a Kaisa pair, a Vayne pair, or any stronger units with this pre-level. Looking back at this footage, maybe I could have just sold the Rel, the Poppy, the Kaisa, and then have Gangplank as my next in. I'd rather just gamble with the pre-level to get stronger units. Since I'm already on a win streak, I want to make sure that I'm getting the best odds to get the strongest units in my shops. I ended up being last pick on this carousel. As much as I would love to get the bow and make Last Whisper, it's on a 3-cost unit, so the chances of that are really low. I do end up looking out and getting a 3-cost Negatron Cloak to make up for my lack of econ, and this could just turn into a frontline item later on. After carousel, I still check my admin. Maybe I'll get an Exodia admin that I could pivot into. This Kaisa ends up being really costly. We don't even play her on our level 5 board. We opt for a Duelist instead. I think Duelist brings out the most in this IE Vayne. I don't need the extra crit that's coming from recall. After the first carousel, I think we made 10 for the first time this game, so that's something to be happy about. Our early game is great. We were able to play for tempo, get a 5 streak going. We're 100 HP and we end up selling the Kaisa to make 20 econ. Our economy is in a great place, our HP is in a great place, our board is obviously strong, and hopefully we can continue the momentum for stage 3. At Krugs, we get dropped a bow and a glove. This is probably the easiest Last Whisper slam of my life. I do wish the crit glove was something that could work well with the Negatron Cloak, but it's not the worst case scenario since I could just slam the glove on my Vayne and my Vayne has a near 100% crit chance. I also opted to not level on 3-1. I gambled the 1 out of 3 chances of avoiding socks. I don't really have any extra units on my bench to put in or in my shop, so I opt to not leveling. I'm not sure if I level, if I'm going to win or not. I end up high rolling as I'm able to save more gold and continue my streak since I was able to dodge the other win streak. My next augment is a gold augment. I rule out Luden's Echo right away since I'm not playing any AP. So I'm left with Portable Forge or Trade Sector. Portable Forge is good for my spot at the moment if I want to keep pushing the tempo. I ended up taking Trade Sector. I'm already ahead of the curve in terms of gold. When I'm playing 80 flex, I want to get to my 80 flex units as quick as possible. I want to get to level 8 as quick as possible. I'm a huge fan of the extra gold that I'm getting from Trade Sector, as well as getting a free roll every round to upgrade my board strength with these extra rolls since I'm able to upgrade my units. Overall, I just like the tempo that Trade Sector brings to the table. I end up griefing my win streak since I end up taking Trade Sector over Portable Forge would have given me board strength right away. I end up putting Underground at level 6 instead of keeping my stronger units like the Renekton. And however, I love playing for tempo. I love playing for my level 8 board whenever I'm playing 80 flex. So whatever could propel me even further ahead of the lobby in terms of econ, I will take that. I ended up being really healthy, so I'm last pick again for Carousel. I end up getting a 3-cost chain. I could definitely slam this right now and make a Gargoyles, or I could greed for a different item later on. After Carousel, I hit a Vein 2 and I hit a Riven. My board is starting to feel pretty stable. I leveled a 7 here to preserve as much HP as possible. This also allows me to get more value out of my Trade Sector. I'm rolling level 7 shops instead of level 6 shops. After hitting Riven 2 as my upgrade, I feel really strong right now. I feel so ahead of the lobby in terms of board strength. My econ is chilling. I don't have to roll any deeper and I could just make my way to level 8 and roll down on a good amount of gold. I end up having a really great stage 3. Maybe I could have taken Portable Forge so I could have a stronger board in terms of items. Maybe I shouldn't have put in Underground and have a stronger board at 3-2, so my streak wouldn't have been broken. I could have had more confidence in my board strength and went out the stage, but I love having the safety patch of cashing out Underground just in case I don't have that win streak. What better way to end this stage by getting a set and rolling with my Trade Sector and getting a Samira, as I love the mech set as my front line and Samira Sure Shot as my back line. I'm very happy with the spot. I was only able to get one item from Wolves, which was a chain vest. Without my Underground cash out, I wouldn't have the extra chain vest to slam Bramble. Was putting Underground in worth it? It definitely feels a little bit worth it to me at this moment. I end up keeping Underground in since it synergizes well with my comp at the moment. I have a Vi 2, the Samira, and Ezreal, which is powering up my upgraded Vayne. Just keeping Underground to keep milking more cash outs. Knowing that our augment choices is silver and gold, there is a high chance of our next augment being a hero. We're completely fine with the way that our augments are set up to cater. Our last augment ends up being that hero augment. Our choices are 4, 5, or 4 cost. Right off the bat, we get an Aphelios support augment, which I really like since I'm leaning towards this mech set type of angle, and mech set just stalls out fights for a very long time. There's not really any other augments I could roll for. I could roll for Samira carry or support, and maybe set support. But Locked and Loaded seems like the obvious choice here. I click it right away, I get an Aphelios for free, and I'm able to scale my damage with this stall out comp. After selecting our augment, we level up on interval so that we can get the max value out of our rerolls from Trade Sector while keeping a fast tempo. We don't have that much gold to roll down with, so we were not able to hit too many important pairs. We hit an Alistar 2 and a Jax 2, which is nice. Yeah, I guess. We at least have a Samira and Sejuani pair to work with. We end up putting our mech set in, which is a little squishy right now. We don't really have any HP items on him. And we also end up putting our damage items onto our Aphelios since that will be our main carry for this game. Our next turn, getting a Sejuani 2 and having our Zac to replace the second Sejuani. We're still searching for the set 2. At least this time we have a set pair. We're not really too concerned about losses. We're sitting at 64 HP. We definitely want to just try catering ourselves to go for a top 2 or top 3 finish this game. For our stage 4 carousel, we're thinking what we could do with this Quick Love. We end up seeing an Aphelios on carousel. We think it's going to get taken away since we're last pick. We end up getting it even though it's a 5 cost tier. We end up picking up the Aphelios so we can have Aphelios pair, even though we're not going to be able to use this tier right away. And I have Trade Sector, so who knows, maybe I could roll into an extra Aphelios. After Carousel, we're able to get a Samira 2. She has no items, but at least she's getting buffed by Aphelios' support augment, as well as sure shots. My next shop, I'm able to get another upgrade, Zac 2. Honestly, I'm kind of just thinking, yo, this trade sector augment, it's pretty good. I feel like I've been hitting all my upgrades on that second roll. So I think this trade sector augment is providing so much value to me. Even though we didn't find our set 2, we were able to win out the rest of our stage with the rest of our upgrades. With Trade Sector, I'm able to kind of just get my econ up to 50, being able to put myself in the position of going level 9 or rolling down at level 8 with 50 gold, depending on how much low HP I get. With 64 HP and the board strength that I have, I think I'm able to make a push to go for a level 9 board. My PvE round ends up dropping me a Ginsu that I can slam on Aphelios. Since my Samira has no items, I end up taking a glove for my item component anvil, and I'm able to slam TG on. I'm able to get a Leona. I scout the lobby real quick and I see that there is a decent amount of AP left. I swap out my Jax for a Leona to get Aegis. I'm rolling down here. I'm donking for a set 2. Once I get this set 2, I feel strong enough to go for level 9. Looking back at this footage, I feel like my board is so stable. I was win streaking last round. I'd rather just get my econ up and go for this level 9 board. I definitely think it's a mistake to roll for my set here, since the only other upgrade I could hit besides my set is an Aphelios, and the chances of that is pretty low. I end up going on a win streak with just set 1, and this is where I definitely think it's a mistake to keep donkey rolling for my set 2. I'm already win streaking without it. Why am I putting so much prioritization on getting the set 2? I'm already stable. After a combined amount of probably 30 gold, I hit the set 2. I definitely have no other upgrades to go for, so I should just start looking to go for that level 9 play. Off of Carousel, I get really lucky since I'm looking for a third item for my set. I can't really use a backline item since my Samira has TG and my Aphelios is fully itemized. I luck out, even as last pick, I get this redemption and able to have a 3 item set. My board is really strong, but unfortunately I lose to this Berserk Soraka. The Berserk just hits my set and all the units around it after 15 seconds. I don't really have that much magic resist in my comp. I'm scared of this since this is the only comp that I've been losing to, and this comp could take away my first place from this game since I don't think there's anyone else that I've been losing to at this point. When I pop open this item anvil from my PvE round, I'm a little bit sad since it's all offensive items. I end up taking a Hod. Maybe this could go on a Fiddle or an Urgot later on. I was hoping for more frontline centric items since I'm already getting damage from my support Aphelios augment. I level up to 9 at the start of stage 6, wishing I had a little bit more gold to roll down with. It's just the consequences of overrolling for that set 2 when I didn't need to. I like Nunu as my next ins. I like the mascot. Since my mech set has a lot of HP, I just think mascot works well with mech. I end up hitting a double echo shop here along with an Urgot, taking the Nunu out and replacing it with an Urgot. Still feel that I need more damage. I have enough frontline units. I'm also holding this double echoes. I'm worried of this echo 3 that could be made by Precedent. You gotta make sure that you're griefing whenever you can. You can't just let them get it. A level 3 4 cost for free. After we defeat the board that's on fire, we secure ourselves top 3. I end up not scouting, and this Leona 2 kind of just surprises me. Basically the biggest counter to my comp. I lose a round for free here. I end up selling the echoes. I'm desperately looking for an upgrade. They're an Aphelios 2, Urgot 2, or any of these pairs that I have on my bench. I'm kind of just hoping those echoes don't go into Precedent's pool and he's able to hit his win con of Echo 3. I end up hitting my Aphelios 2, and I'm also able to slam Redemption with an Urgot component that got dropped. This carousel ends up being the most atrocious carousel choices that I could ever get. There's no other tank items, other spatula items that I could use. I just end up picking another Last Whisperer here. I end up losing to Leona round again. I decide to move my items from set to Leona 1 turn late. The only issue I have with this matchup, having the mech set is better for the Soraka matchup, but having the Leona mech is better for the mech Leona matchup. Kind of stuck in between the two options right now. I end up switching my items over to the Leona. Also, I end up hitting a Janna 2 out of thin air. I feel like I just want more tank and I want more stall, so I end up putting the Janna since the weather is sunny. After putting my items onto the Leona from the set, I'm able to secure second by winning against the mech Leona player. The level 3 echo has already been made. I'm not so sure how I could win against that board. I'm kind of sad that I had to sell the extra echoes to make my Aphelios 2. I'd rather guarantee myself second by making my board strong enough to beat out the third place. Once we guarantee ourselves second, we're thinking of ways we could beat this Echo 3 frontline with Berserk Soraka scaling in the backline. At PvE Urgot round, I'm able to get a remover. I end up taking Declaw to slam Bramble and Declaw. I end up rolling down and hitting an Urgot 2. I'm also hoping for a Sejuani 3. I end up making a misplay here, getting baited by my remover and tunneling in on set to tank up the Soraka. Having said, as an unkillable frontline, doesn't matter when Soraka's Berserk ends up killing everything around my set. I should have just kept a mech Leona so that the Leona could burn down the Echo 3. We end up going second here as we can't get through this Echo 3 front line with the carry Soraka in the back line. I had a pretty high roll game from start to finish. I wish I could have closed out with a first. Everything up until stage 5 was smooth. Some minor issues here and there. The major things I could have done was not over-rolling on stage 5. I'd have a lot more gold to roll down with at level 9. Been able to hit the upgrades for my legendary units earlier. More gold there would allow me to grief with the double Echo shop I got for the Echo 3 player. Once I was one life away from death, I had to stop greeting for a first place by greeting these echoes and had to sell them, make my board strong enough to secure that second. It ended up being a really close game. I'm mad that I didn't get first, but we're definitely happy to take away a second. After getting second in game 5, I'm able to break away a little bit from the bottom of the top 16 to qualify for day 2. We were playing it safe most of the day, and we were finally able to capitalize on a high roll game. Going into my last game, since the top 16 advanced to day 2, the lowest point total is 22 points, being held by Boss of Skills, Buzzy Boo, and Jukyu. I just have to make sure that I get 5 points in my last game. This will put us at a point total of 31, where we don't have to rely on a tiebreaker to advance to day 2. The players in the 22 point range, even if they get a first, they will end the day at 30 points, which is 1 point lower than me. All we have to do in our last game is just get one more top 4. We've been top 4ing the whole day. Playing for a top 4 to guarantee myself into day 2 is way less pressure than trying to go first or 8th. As long as I don't grief or low roll too hard next game, I can guarantee myself to make day 2. For going into game 6, I still want to play with my default plan of AP. I still think AP is a strong top 4 board, which is all we want to do this game. We end up winning the only rod on Carousel, and the only other AP centric item is Tier. Since there's not too many AP items off this Carousel, maybe I'll be less contested for AP this game. This first shop, I end up selling this Renekton so I can pick up a Wukong pair and a Lulu. Our next shop, we're able to pick up another Lulu, and we're able to pick up a Poppy pair. Towards the end of the round, I also get dropped the Riven and the Vel'Koz. Looking at my start, I have 3 pairs right away, and I have a good front line with defenders. Looking at my items, I could definitely still play AP. I could have a belt, a rod, and a tier. These items could be a Morello and a blue buff off Carousel if I wanted to play Gadgeteen. The tier and the rod are pretty open for offensive components, and the belt is open for a defensive component. Isn't it crazy that our first is prismatic? All we need is to force this game, and we're kind of just hoping we don't get prismatic. We end up taking high roller here, thinking if we can just hit a Poppy 3 or Lulu 3, we'll be able to win streak out stage 2 and maybe someone stage 3. With the extra HP and tempo, we're hoping to sail into a top 4. If we dice our Lulu, the only options that we could get are Lulu, Poppy, Annie, and Lee Sin. First dice is high roll. We get 3 Lulus, a Poppy 2, and we get an Annie. We don't level here, so we can maximize our odds and save gold to buy my shops. I roll out CB3 since I mainly play backline carries that aren't able to make the most use out of the extra heal. Like Living Forge since it takes too long to scale, and you're relying on RNG to give you items that fit your comp. We don't level here, so we can maximize our odds and save gold to buy my shops. We high roll our matchup into a level 3 board and get the win before our spike. My next dice is pretty lit. I get 3 more Lulus and another Poppy. The next dice maybe could have went on a Poppy instead of a Lulu. I'm only 1 Lulu off. A dice on Poppy could have landed me a Wukong 2 or more Poppies than I needed. At least guarantee myself the Lulu 3. From this spot, I think I could win out stage 2. My next in at level 4, I play off my Gadgeteen item. I swapped Annie for Riven depending on if my item is good or not. If the item is bad, I'd rather have more frontline by putting a Riven in to get Defender and Brawler. I'm able to win streak into Carousel with this strategy while not slamming any items. So off this Carousel, I'm hoping to get an item for my Lulu, either a JG or another tier to make blue buff. Even though I'm last pick, I'm able to secure myself a tier. This is probably due to the lobby being less AP centric. The bad thing about trying to win streak of high roller, you use your dice early and end up broke from buying all the units. Since I got a blue buff off of Carousel, I think my board is strong enough now to win out. I agreed a little bit not leveling here to get my econ up. I level up at the end of the stage to put in Lee Sin and secure my streak. Also, I'm able to roll out admin, but I don't think I'm going to play admin this game. My items at Krugs are kind of a banger. I get a bow, tear, and glove. My next shop, I get a Zoe as well, so I'm able to replace my Annie. I end up greeting my last slot on Lulu here. I slam the JG, and instead of slamming Shiv on my Lulu, I slam it on my Zoe. Even though I'm broke here, I level up to 6 as there is another board win streaking. Most of my gold is going to be coming from my win streaks, so I need to make sure I can maintain that. I end up putting Alistar in, forgetting I don't have Oxforce because the Annie's out. Maybe I could have put in a double Lee Sin instead, because Heart and Brawler. I slam the Sunfire on my Lulu since she's already in the front line, and she's able to benefit from the Gadgeon item buffs. My positioning is too lit this fight. My Lulu is able to snipe 3 units with her ultimate, and I'm able to beat the other win streaker. I was hoping my next augment to not be hero, so I could gamble my chances of getting a Gadgeon crest. Unfortunately, it ends up being a hero augment. I roll pretty fast on these augments. I end up seeing a Zoe. I see double bubble. Maybe I could play Zoe as a secondary carry. Since all my items are already slammed on my Lulu, I'm hoping for the Zoe support augment since I already have enough damage. I end up using all my rolls and not hitting the Zoe augment sleepy time. These augments are pretty bad. The only takeable one here is the Riven support augment. Maybe I could keep playing for tempo and it gives me a Riven pair to work with. I end up taking Riven support as my hero augment, Triumphant Return. I end up losing my streak to someone with 2 offensive augments, Woodland Charm for another Rammus, as well as Spread Shot Vayne. Those augments are really strong in the mid game, and I end up losing my streak here. At Carousel, I'm last pick. I have the option of taking a bow or a Negatron Cloak. I end up taking bow because it's on the 3 cost unit, and I still need that 3rd item for Lulu. I level up to 7 after Carousel with only 10 gold to roll. I'm able to get a Riven 2 and get a Jinx to put in Prankster for frontline. I'm 91 HP at the spot and I'm playing for full tempo. I just want to top 4 this game so I could qualify for the next day. My biggest concern isn't trying to get to a top 2 spot to qualify, so I do the best that I can so I can just bleed out to a top 4. After Carousel, even though I lost my streak, I was able to win out the rest of the stage. At the end of the stage, I high roll my shop so much as I'm able to complete 3 pairs on my bench, the Alistar, Lee Sin, and Zoe. My items dropped at Wolves are a Rod and Negatron Cloak. My shop after Wolves continues the high roll as I'm able to natural an Annie as well as an Echo. I tunnel here and I grief my game a little bit. I slam double Magic Resist Shred where I have Ionic Spark on my front line and a Static Shift on my Zoe backline. These 2 items don't stack and I'd be fine with only one of them. It would have been better to slam Morellos on my Zoe or leave the components up to make another item. I ended up winning my next round. At this point, I'm 91 HP. I have a really strong board. There's no way I don't top 4 from this spot, right? The last augment ends up being a gold augment. I have really good choices. I have Ancient Archives, Phony Frontline, or Cybernetic Uplink. I rule out Phony Frontline since my Riven support augment is already giving me more frontline. Cybernetic Uplink isn't that bad as my items are spread out, and I'll be able to use up to 2 Gadgeon items if I can hit a Nunu this game. Playing this comp, I really like having an extra emblem, so I'm willing to go for a higher cap by gambling Ancient Archives, fishing for 5 Gadgeon to spike me right now, and get rid of the Poppy later when I get a Nunu. Other traits I could roll for are Oxforce, Heart, Prankster, Aegis, and Mascot. They're suboptimal, but they can work as well. I don't end up hitting Gadgeon, but Prankster Emblem saves the day. It's not as bad as the extra CC. Once I put in 3 Prankster, it helps a lot. I switched my Poppy for Echo so I could put in Prankster, and I put the Prankster crest on my Annie so that she can get Gadgeon item buffs. After putting Prankster in, I could position my board in a way that will make the most use of my Riven support augment. I'm able to go on another short win streak before losing my streak again to a different Vayne spread shot player. I'm last pick for Carousel again. I'm left with the option of having a tier or belt. The belt is on a 5 cost unit, and I'm able to slam more mugs if I wanted to, or agreed for an anti-heal item. I could also sell my Zoe and slam a ZZ Rot if I wanted to pop off this bow. After Carousel, I level up to 8. I'm not able to hit any legendaries, so I put in Aesol as my next end. This Lulu is just smurfing every round. I'm able to end stage 4 at level 8 with 81 HP to spare. At PvE round, I'm only dropped gold and an item anvil. Out of the item anvil, I ended up taking chain vest so I could slam this Sunfire. I could have went for a third Lulu item by selling my Zoe and making an item with that open bow, but I just end up greeting so I could slam Sunfire and CZ route instead. I'm hoping next carousel can have a third item for my Lulu. If not, I could just keep slamming Gatchine items so I can get the Gatchine buff. There's not too many upgrades I could go for at this point. I'm basically just chilling with my gold, either saving up enough to roll down and try to hit a Nunu to cap out, or just going for the good old level 9 stage 6. Next round, I'm able to hit Echo 2, allowing me to put in a Vi so I can get 4 Brawler and another Aegis stack, which stacks well with my support Riven Augment. At this point, there's absolutely no upgrades I could really go for. Vi 2 doesn't even count. I just decided to go for level 9 so I can hit this Nunu and get 5 Gatchine. Everyone's getting much stronger, rolling down all their gold, trying to hit as many upgrades as possible. Meanwhile, I'm sacking stage 5 just so I can go level 9. Before carousel, I end up with 2 losses and a win, which isn't bad since I'm still the highest HP in the lobby by a really good margin. Still last pick, and I end up getting an Archangel so I can have a third item on my Lulu. It's not the best item, but I take it over the other options. Looking back, I should have prioritized getting a third item on my Lulu rather than relying on carousel for a third item. After carousel, we're still trying to go level 9 and we don't have any upgrades or any units to put in. We noticed that there's someone else with a Nunu 2 on 8, so that's going to make it a little bit hard to get Nunu. At this point, everyone's hit their spike. I lost against a spread shot Vayne with a Recon Yasuo 3. And I lose against the underground catch-out player who has 2 Radiant items with an insane board and upgrades. I end up taking so much damage this stage. I end stage 5 with 22 HP. My board strength has been the same as everyone else is getting stronger, so it makes sense that I'm taking these losses. Off of my item anvil from PvE, there's only 2 options I could really take here, Warmogs or Bramble. I already have Armor Shred and Anti-Heal. I ended up taking the Bramble to reduce more damage once I'm able to get 5 Gatchine. At stage 6, I'm able to level up to 9 and have around 20 gold to roll with. Unfortunately, it's not enough gold to roll with. There's already someone with Nunu 2, so that's probably killing my odds. Even though I sold my upgraded Zoe, I'm only able to hit Fiddlesticks, Urgot, and Leona. I put the Fiddlesticks in as my +1. Looking at my board, I could have replaced the Vi with Leona. Not hitting my Nunu hurts me pretty hard here as I'm lose against the Draven that's win streaking. Good news is, after going through this round, I'm able to get top 4, and here's some of my live reactions about that. After the loss, we're trying to roll whatever gold that we have to get this Nunu for 5 Gatchine. At this point, I think it's a little too late to be getting my Nunu. The items are already on my Echo 2. Maybe I could have sold the Echo and bought the one in my shop to replace the items. I don't think it matters too much as my opponent had a LeBlanc 3 with the carry augment, as well as Soraka 2 in the backline with Nunu 2 in the front line. We're just so happy because we're able to get top 4, which guarantees our spot into the next day. In tournament play, you're going to be put into some circumstances where you have to play a different play style than what you were going for. This whole day, I was playing for top 4, so it was my comfort zone. I just needed a top 4 to qualify for the next day. Based on my previous matches, I didn't have that pressure to go for anything higher than a top 3 to qualify. Tournament play is definitely different from ladder play. Every game out of the 6 matters a lot. Most of your lobbies are filled with people that are competing just like you. It's a little bit sweatier than your average TFT ranked game. A cool thing I did notice compared to ladder is some people respect if you're calling a certain reroll comp, there's a likely chance that someone else won't really reroll that comp and contest you. This is because everyone's just trying to get their highest placement as possible. Playing uncontested allows you to hit your units faster and more consistently, which allows you to consistently place higher. Compared to TFT ranked, some people just don't even care. They're just like, me, no pivot, no scout. I don't care if we're contested. We're going to hold hands 7 and 8. In tournament, different than that. That 4th place game not only solidified my place into playing day 2 of the mid-set finale, this also marks the end of the day since we played our 6 games. This video took a lot of time to edit. I wanted to get it out a lot more earlier, but this was my first video. Recording the voiceovers, editing the footage, and making sure everything lined up. It definitely took a lot more time than I thought. But I was so motivated to get this video out since there's not really any content covering tournaments and players' perspectives and just voiceovers in general where you're able to hear what players are thinking. I really enjoy this type of long form content since it allows me to think about some things that I don't necessarily think about while watching a game that I like to play. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this first video of mine. I'm not sure if I want to create more content like this in future sets since it took me a lot of time to kind of do everything. If y'all enjoyed this video, definitely let me know in the comments. If y'all really like the video, the way that it was made, the way that I'm voicing over it, definitely let me know, as that'll give me more inspiration if there's more people like me out there that enjoy this type of style. If y'all didn't like it, definitely let me know what improvements I can make or what type of content that y'all would like to see. I feel really lucky to be in a position where I'm able to compete at such a high level for TFT in North America after spending so much time grinding on that ranked ladder. Hopefully by sharing my experience, y'all could even join me in these tournaments. Hopefully y'all can see what it's like to compete at this level, and hopefully it improves your gameplay to kind of take it up a notch, since playing ranked TFT is a little bit different than playing competitive. If y'all want to make that jump to competitive, hopefully this video was a huge help in that. That's my aim. I want the TFT community to grow in so many ways. And if you're a competitive person like me and you have that competitive itch, being able to spread how the competitive scene is for TFT, hopefully I'm able to grow the TFT community that way. If y'all enjoyed the video, definitely hit that subscribe button for more future content. Leave a like on this video, and yeah, comment on if you enjoyed this type of video, if you want any other perspectives on TFT related things, or if you just dislike the video, just let me know what's wrong with it. I definitely want to improve as a creator. So all of your feedback I'm gonna take away and improve it for future videos. Thanks y'all so much for spending your time with me. I know this is a long video, but maybe you watched it when you're eating or in the background. And yeah, I'll see y'all in the next one. You already know. I'm not too sure if I'm going to be able to make a video that recaps my day 2 because the day 1 recap took so long. Set 8.5 is right around the corner, and I want to focus on climbing the ranked ladder and compete maybe for Worlds. Who knows? You already know, it's your boy here, Lil Top to the top. We're gonna make sure that we can keep grinding on the TFT ladder and just try to do the best that we can. Lil Top to the top, you already know what it is. Take it easy, y'all. Lil Top to the top, Lil Top on top, Lil Toppers, let's go. We got all the Lil Top slogans, but thanks y'all so much for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later. Take it easy, Lil Toppers.